special person. He's a friend. We do a lot of things together, and we've known each other for a while. And before I get into that, I just want to say that this is the third season, and I'm very passionate about it, and I'm gonna keep doing it, and I'm gonna do my best to bring very crazy people like the person today more often as I can, because I love you guys, and thank you so much for the support. And I've been getting a lot of people telling me like, I watched that episode and I felt very identified with that person. Thank you for bringing that person in. And the person that I brought today is very, very extremely successful. And it is not just a person that just looks successful, but he feels successful. And when you meet him, you feel that sensation that he's a truly happy person. So he's enjoying his success, and he has a beautiful family too, which is like what we all want, right? We want life not balanced, but like we want a successful life, not just success in assets and monetary success, etc. So this guy, his name is Shin, and he's here with us. Okay, and I'm gonna present this guy. I'm not gonna say absolutely everything he's done in his life because it's so long. You can go to his website and you can read more about it. But this guy, he's done so many things. It's crazy. Okay, but I'm just gonna briefly tell you about who Shin is. Okay, so this guy is a serial entrepreneur. He's a philanthropist, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about the things he's done, okay, for people. He's a movie producer, specifically speaking of the Think and Grow Rich legacy movie, the movie, okay? He's an author of this really cool book. By the way, the cover, man, killer, okay? And he's a motivational speaker, and he's critically acclaimed business coach. So he also can be your business coach, just so you know, okay? So this guy, he's actually started over 26 different companies in different industries, real estate investor. He's gotten each one of these 26 companies, by the way, over multi-millions. Okay. So not just like, oh yeah, he's got 26 companies, but they're all broke, No, the guy, he's actually gotten them to a high level. Okay. And he's also the co-founder of the All for One Foundation. Okay, so I'll say a little bit more about that foundation in a second. But he also helps another 6 different foundations and charities, and as a board director. Okay, so he helps others, and he's got his own that he co-founded. And so this guy, he is the guy who came up with the idea of the Think and Grow Rich Legacy movie. Okay, and he'll tell us about that story. And I've heard it, and it's crazy. Okay, it's like it gives you chills. It's insane. And so like this is the movie of this book. Okay, I got it here, Think and Grow Rich. When I started in business, this was one of the books. I read this book and Rich Dad Poor Dad, that is somewhere around here. And those 2 books were the books that allowed me to say, fuck it, I'm going to go all in and I'm going to start my own business. But I was very scared, right? And skeptical. And that was one of the books that allowed me to get into that mindset. So this guy is the one who's like, man, there should be a movie for this thing. And there's no movie. And, nowadays, like who wouldn't think that this deserves a movie? But there was no movie. Okay. So he's like, I'm going to do a movie, and he did it, and he put all this stuff together, and he'll tell us the story in a second. I mean, it's insane, right? It's incredible. So that book, of course, it's, very like it's an official, that the movie, that's an official movie from the Napoleon Hill Foundation. So they're certified that movie as well as his own book. Okay. So it's amazing all the things this guy has done, and of course he's done a lot of money and a lot of crazy stuff in his life. But without further ado, I got Shin here with us. Thank you, John. Woo! Welcome, man. Thank you so much for being here. How are you doing?
Thanks for having me, Jose. Great to be here with you and everyone.
Man, I'm so honored to have you here in the show. And so tell us, how are you doing?
Well, I'm doing great. It's a new year. We're already Today is the 19th of January, and it's crazy. We're almost 3 weeks into the new year. And I hope that most people are starting off the new year in the right way.
Yeah, yeah. This is your year, guys. Let's go, right? So, John, there's a lot of things you've done, but tell us like what you believe my audience should hear, which the people here, they're small business owners, new entrepreneurs. They want to, they're just starting into this difficult, career or path, right? So tell us about that story, that the places that you think they're worth mentioning for all of us, please.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. For those of you that are entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, or you're on the fence, you have a job, and you're wondering, is there a better way to make more money? Okay. Now, the thing I want you guys to understand is that, having a business and owning a business and running a business, it's not for everybody. Okay. I mean, it really isn't. It's something that you really need to dedicate yourself to and understand that a lot of us are influenced by what they see on social media, whether it's, Instagram or Facebook or wherever. And then what people do is they make it look like it's so easy that everyone can do it, and so why not go do it? And it's not, it's what social media wants you to see and believe. But the reality is that there's a lot of work to be done when you're starting a business. And if you're starting a business and if it's just money that you're after because you want to make a lot of money, then I think that you may want to reconsider it because, excuse me, just wanting to make a lot of money in a particular industry, you may just say it's not worth it. You may not say I want to pay the price. One of the things I want people to do is to be really passionate about what they believe in, to have that crusader mindset, to have an obsession, about something that you want to do. So I'll give you an example. There's a lady, a single parent, who basically lost their child to a drunk driver. And she
Wow.
lost her child to a drunk driver. She was not well off, not highly educated, was not super connected or anything. And this one person decided that they would go, and because the way the laws were designed to, I guess if you want to punish, drunk drivers, what would you do? And the punishment wasn't that severe. And because of that, and more people started losing their kids or a child to drunk driving. And so she started an organization called MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Drivers. Well, Mothers Against Drunk Drivers has now grown to Fathers, FAD, and Dad, or Friends Against Drunk Drivers, and Dads Against Drunk. And there's so many other versions of Mothers Against Drunk Drivers. But MAD has now gone to a point where they're now influenced politicians to change the laws so that we can rehabilitate people, teach people about, being under the influence of alcohol. And she did all that stuff without money. Okay. It was all about influence. One of the things I get people to say to me is, well, why haven't you started a business? And the first thing they say is, because I don't have any money. Well, if you read the book Think and Grow Rich will tell you that you don't need money to dream bigger. And most people simply just don't dream big enough. Okay. And they're comfortable dreaming small. A good friend of mine named Sharon Lecter says, don't play small. You're playing too small. You need to play big. And so I tell people to start playing bigger. And that's one thing that my mother said. My mother said to me a while ago when sorry about that, Jose. Hold on.
No, no worries. I'll do the same. I was waiting for the right moment. This is it.
Yeah. When we came to this country, the parents basically said, hey, we didn't come to this country to screw up this opportunity. We came here seeking that dream. And a lot of people think that we come to America because it's beautiful beaches and all these wonderful destinations, but a lot of those beautiful beaches and destinations are across the world. So one of the reasons that we come to America is we come here because it's the land of free enterprise. That you can start your own business and not only have one, but you can have many businesses you like. Right? So, I mean, you don't see too many people wanting to buy a ticket. My goodness. Hold on one second.
No worries. Yeah, no, I'm totally with John. So it's unfortunate that a lot of people, they believe like they gotta have all these things perfect, money, these fancy cars to show off, all these things to either start, to get the influence. Like he talked about the lady that did all these crazy things for against truck drivers that kill people and stuff, and or start a business. And when I started my business, for the people that don't know, I only had two credit cards, right? I had one credit card with $200, and I started a business with that one on eBay, and I took that business from nothing, from $200 to $6,000 a month, okay, selling things on eBay. And the other one is my current business. So without any money or anything, you can literally start your business and start working towards your dreams. Keep going, John.
Yeah, like so I was saying is like you don't see too many people buying tickets and wanting to immigrate to the country of North Korea or Cuba, right? I mean, everybody wants to come to America because it's truly the land of opportunity. And so I tell people, if you're going to start a business, you got to start dreaming bigger, okay? And then decide to break down all your goals into the 5 F's, okay? The 5 F's. And so one of the things I tell people, when Arlene and I first got married, and Arlene is my wife, right? We got married in 1994. We sat down before we got married and said, in these 5 different sectors, and the first F is in the area of faith. The second one is our family. The third one is our finance. The third, fourth one is our fitness. And last is fun. And you can prioritize those however way you'd like. And so the first thing we want to focus on is for us was our faith. Like, how do we want to improve our life in the area of faith? And if you read the book Think and Grow Rich, chapter 2, you'll hear Napoleon Hill say in chapter 2 that you have to have faith in your business. And so a lot of us may not have faith in what we're going to do. And so that's where it becomes important that you hire a coach, you hire a mentor, or seek a coach. Because one of the things that I was doing when I first started in 1994 and 95 is Arlene and I were doing things, Jose, but we didn't know if what we were doing was the right thing.
Yeah.
And so it would have been really nice if I would have had somebody who had done it before to come and say, hey, kid, whatever you're doing, keep on doing it, because that's exactly what you should be doing it. And so what I wanted was some confirmation from somebody that what I was doing was the right thing. And that's why it's important. Like if you're going to go golf and you just take a club and you can take it and you can just swing it, but you may not necessarily be holding the club properly. You may not be swinging properly. And that's why you hire a golf coach, and then they actually get you in front of a camera and they actually watch your swing and watch your motions, and they study it precisely to see where is that error. Does that make sense, right? That we can improve, the little things that need to be improved. And that's essentially what happened to me is I had a mentor came into my life, and then he said, what are you doing? Tell me how you're doing it. I want to make sure that you're doing it the right way. And I told him what I was doing. I received that confirmation, and it gave me a boost of confidence. Okay. And as soon as I got that confidence, like I had a different level of energy, right? Because my energy as I'm talking to somebody became so much more compelling because what I had was something called conviction. Okay. And the word conviction is very powerful, Jose, because, in criminal law, if somebody commits a crime and you're trying to send them off to jail, they say in the courtroom that you have to, as a jury, right? The district attorney has to convince the jury what they call beyond a reasonable doubt. Beyond, like there's no, like there's no doubt, means it's absolute, it's beyond a reasonable doubt that this person committed this crime and therefore should be punished and go to jail. Okay? So it has to be beyond a reasonable doubt. Did I and my wife Arlene have the conviction that what we were doing, okay, was the right thing? Okay, because that's what we want to do. So we had the conviction, okay, and that's why I tell people, if you don't have the conviction of what you're doing, you hit one little obstacle and it will just knock you over. One little challenge, it'll knock you over. And so I tell people that if you're having any kind of issues or obstacles or challenges, hey, guess what? You're growing. That's part of business, is falling, and it's natural. So if you're hitting a wall, you're frustrated, it's not working out for you, hey, welcome to entrepreneurship, because it's going to start that way for everybody.
Yeah. Welcome to Entrepreneurship 101. That's right. Yeah.
You
I don't know how many times I failed, man. Keep going.
You got to fall on your face and eat crap for a while before you start to think, before you get the big stakes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you got to use the cards you're dealt, and just keep going and not look around. Oh, this guy got these cards, and that's in the Bible, even that's everywhere, right? That and people, successful people like you, they remind us of these things, and they tell us like, man, like you just gotta eat the shit while you're making the fortress, making the castle.
Yeah.
So tell us about when you started, dude, and then there's so many hilarious stories in between, but just tell us some about how, when you started, and the situation you were in, and so people like know.
I mean, the other thing too is when I was a kid, I grew up in Glendale. There wasn't many Asian kids. I think it was me and my sister and maybe one other kid who was an Asian kid. Excuse me, it was just the three of us. And so the city and my school had never seen an Asian guy. Okay, so we really stuck out. Like everyone knew who we were, to a point where people would say the most bizarre things to us that my sister and I could not comprehend, right? Which was like, number one, like I remember this one kid who walked up to us and said, "Hey, can you see us?" And I looked right at him and I'm like, what are you talking about? Of course, like, is you standing right in front of me? What are you, stupid? Like, I mean, like I didn't understand what he was trying to insinuate or imply. Even my fourth grade teacher, right, Jose, called my parents into the school, had a meeting with them, and said that I had a learning disability. And told my parents that I probably will not be a very effective communicator. Okay. I'm going to really struggle in life. Okay. And I was kind of shocked by some of the things that my teacher and my principal and the school nurse was telling my parents. And so let me just tell you, my parents were concerned. So they come home, and what do? They basically hire a tutor. Okay. And then they get a tutor in front of me. The tutor's like now tutoring me all night. And then after a few months, the tutor goes back to my parents and said, "We really need to talk about your son, John." So my parents are like, "Oh my God, what's going on? What kind of a disability is it? If you've discovered other disabilities, I mean, what's wrong with our kid?" And so, you know what the tutor says to my parents, and said, "Actually, your son is really smart. And quite frankly, I don't even think he's got a learning disability." And my parents go, "Well, what do you mean?" It says the teacher and the principal and the school nurse says that he's got a disability. I mean, and you're saying he doesn't? Like, no. And I said, "What's the problem? What's wrong with him? What do you see?" And he says, "Well, the issue is that your son doesn't understand English."
Oh.
Right? So if you don't understand English, and then they tell you to read something, but you don't understand the definition of the vocabulary words, then how do you explain to them what you read? Does that make sense, right? If you don't even know what it means. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so all of a sudden my tutor started saying, what we need to do is increase his vocabulary words. Okay. And then we'll get him to speak English more. Okay. and then I think he'll be fine. So my whole life, it could have been changed if I believed in what these teachers were saying, right? And the principal and the school nurse. If I had believed and accepted what they told me was correct, then that could have been very detrimental for me. But I
Right.
didn't let them, steal that thunder. And the greatest thing is my parents never gave up either. And so one of the things I tell people all the time today, whether you're raising a family, you have a relationship, you've got a sales force, or you have an organization with a lot of people, is to EPR your people every day. EPR. So in the medical world, if you need to, as people are dying or isn't breathing and you need to resuscitate them, you give them CPR, right? So it's whether it's cardiac or pulmonary, you need to resuscitate them. Well, so what do? You give them chest compressions, you give them mouth to mouth, but we can't really do that with all our employees and our staff, right? We can't be going around and giving mouth to mouth. And so what are you doing? I'm giving you mouth to mouth. Why? I think you need help, right? I'm trying to keep you alive. But what we can do, Jose, is we can give them EPR. And the letters EPR stands for, the letter E is to encourage people every day. Encourage. The letter P stands for praise every day. And the letter R is recognition on a daily basis. So if our schools can figure out a way where they can encourage their children, praise their kids, and recognize them, rather than making them feel dumb and stupid and all that kind of stuff, I think there'll be better results in the school system today. But as I look in the back of your wall right now, you can see all those accolades you've got. Those are what? That's a form of recognition, okay? And so people need to do more of that on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And so then I see a lot of people do a great job at work, but they don't do any EPR at their home. Or they might EPR people at their home, but they don't do a very good job on EPRing people at their workplace. And so it's an art. You have to learn how to do it. And then once you do it on a daily basis, okay, it becomes routine. It becomes natural. My father worked for 35 years in the medical industry. And when he retired, he finally got a certificate. 35 years later, they finally gave him a plaque, and I was at his house last week, and there were some people at his house, and they said, oh, so you were in the medical field, of all the things that my dad could have found to tell these people of his 35 years, okay, of being in the medical field, do you know what he went and got? He went upstairs into his bedroom and he came downstairs with that one plaque that he got. And he got that after 35 years of service. He didn't come down with his paychecks. He didn't say, look at all the money I made. Are you with me on that? Or his paycheck stubs. Yeah. He didn't come downstairs with his bank statements. What he did is he came down with a certificate to basically say, hey, look at what I got after 35 years. And that's why I tell people how important it is that if you want to grow your organization and grow your family, and is to constantly EPR your family and all your coworkers.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm with you. I think people just think that it's like something that you gotta do because of you gotta be social and things like that, but they don't see the implications of doing it consistently and how people feel and all of that. And just you doing that for someone, it's like a domino effect, but it's also something that it could translate for them winning later, and they'll always remember that time when you helped them, because everyone else is so negative, right? That like yesterday I was speaking with a customer, and she's like, you know what, it's difficult, and I'm trying to budget and things like that, and I'm like, and she's like uncertain about her business, and I'm like, well, you have to just make more money, right? You should not be thinking of budgeting. Like, what else can you budget? You can't. You have to try to make more money. but everyone else is telling her these negative things, right? So imagine if you had someone that was like giving you these positive vibes and EPR, right, instead of this NPR, like negative shit. Instead of that, you would have someone that is, helping you out, supporting you. That would be a whole game changing thing.
Yeah. Now, another thing is I tell people when you're starting a business, or if you already have a business, is what is so, when I get in my car and you said, hey, John, come to my house. And I was like, all right, great, Jose, what's your home address? Well, I would take your home address. I would have no idea how to get there. And so there are different apps, or even in my car, there is a GPS system, right? And so we got to follow our GPS to get to the destination. Well, in business, we have a GPS as well. And the letter GPS is also another acronym. So, Jose, I love acronyms. I'm a big acronym guy. Okay.
Me too.
So that's how I remember things. So for me, GPS, the letter G stands for your goals. Okay. Your goals. Now, what's important is that you might know your goals personally, but the question is, does your family know what your goals are? Okay. Does your staff know what the goals are? Does your sales force know what the goals are? Does everyone know what is the outcome this year, okay, for 2023 or 2024 or whatever year? And not only do you want to know what the goals are on an annual basis, but what are the goals on a quarterly basis? Okay. So that's what the letter G stands for, is what are your goals? And the goals are going to be in the 5 different F's that we talked about, right? Then the letter P stands for your plan. What's the plan for you to actually achieve all your goals? Okay. Now you've heard people say, Jose, things like most people don't plan to fail, but they fail to plan. So if you don't have a plan right now, then guess what? You're in a whole lot of trouble, right? You need to sit down with somebody like a coach and a mentor, get the right people around you and start put together a plan. When special forces in the military are about to go on a mission, right? They all get into this room and then they talk about the plan. What is the plan for this mission? And then they go through that plan and they drill it and they drill and they drill. And then they practice on the plan. Excuse me. First they put it on paper. Then they do like a prototype, mission. And then what happens is when they have that plan, then you have better results. Okay. The more you work on that plan. And then, it's interesting when you go into the military, they say, or even like in law enforcement, you've got police officers and then you've got the SWAT team. Most of the SWAT and or special forces, you don't lose as many of those people as you do the general military. Okay. And that's because they have a different amount of training. They're provided more tools and more training. So the question is, in your plan, what does your training program look like?
I like that.
Okay. Yeah. So, you can't just tell your people, go sell this product, right? They're going to say, how? Like, what's there's no training. You haven't given any training. So one of the things I ask everyone is, what kind of training have you received to be an entrepreneur? What kind of training have you received to become a business person? You haven't, because your whole life, your mom and dad and your parents and your coworkers and your pastors and people who love you. Now, here's the thing, Jose, is that just because someone loves you does not necessarily mean that they're giving you the best advice.
Right.
Definitely. Okay. So this is why you go and you seek out experts. Okay. So for instance, I am not a website designer. I don't want to be a website designer. Does that make sense? Designing websites is not my passion. Okay. But guess what? I rather go hire someone like you who would come and build out my website, because you and your team, you guys love it. You're passionate about it. You like doing it. You enjoy doing it. You get creative. Great. So guess what? I'm not building out my website. I go and seek professionals to do it. And that's part of my plan. Okay. And then the letter S is your schedule. When are you going to start this plan? When are you going to put it into action? Okay. Action. Okay. So Most people have great ideas, but they never do anything with it. So I'll give you an example. So we did the movie Think and Grow Rich, The Legacy. And, you know, a lot of people, every time I go to big events and people say, man, you know what? I go, what? And they go, I was going to do the movie. I was going to call the foundation and I was going to do it. And I'm like, so my question, I always ask them, I go, so why didn't you? Right? What was it? And they go, you know, and so, by the way, you know how many people that are Asian said, you know, I was going to call the Napoleon Hill Foundation and see if we could do the Asian version of Think and Grow Rich. And I was like, okay, so why didn't you?
I love it.
And you know what they say? Because they thought, well, I didn't think the foundation would really give it to me. I really didn't think the foundation. So their fear, does that make sense? Was actually bigger than their dreams. Are you with me? Right? And this is why I said earlier, Jose, that the dreams have to be bigger than the what? Fears. And then if your dreams are bigger than the fears, then here's what I say is to ask without fear. Because I'm the guy who asked the Napoleon Hill Foundation if I can write a book with them. And what do they say? Yes. Now I got a book with the Napoleon Hill Foundation, right? So you ask without fear, okay? You put it into your calendar and you take MIA. It's not missing in action, but it's take massive immediate action. Take massive immediate action. So the word action also comes from the word to act. ACT. I got another acronym for you, Jose. You ready for it?
Yeah, go ahead. Let's do it.
The letters ACT means the letter A is to take appropriate action. So, for instance, if I want to lose 20 pounds in my weight, does that make sense, right? Then if I'm eating hamburgers and French fries and fried chicken and pizza and pasta, and I wonder why I'm not losing weight, because what I'm eating is not appropriate for the results. Does that make sense? If I'm not getting proper rest, if I'm not drinking enough water, if I'm not exercising on a daily basis, okay, then guess what? All those things are going to affect the outcome of my weight. So are you taking appropriate action? I've actually had people go, John, my goal this year, I'm going to lose 20 pounds. Great. And then they go and then they eat all this stuff. They don't exercise. They don't drink water. They don't get plenty of rest. And then I go, hey, I thought you said you're going to try to lose 20 pounds this year. And they go, man, you know what? This is the body that God gave me. Does that make sense? So it's just the way I'm born. This is my DNA. And I think I was born to be 20 pounds overweight. Not true. Does that make sense, right? So you can lose the weight if what? The dreams are bigger than your what? Fears. And so I tell people take appropriate action. Now, another thing when it comes to the word ACT, the letter C, okay, C, I don't know if you can see that, C in my hand, is to be consistent, okay? So whatever you do, it's about repetition. Doing it over and over and over so you could do it right inside your own sleep, okay? It becomes not in your conscious, but it becomes ingrained into your subconscious mind, okay? And then it just happens naturally. That's why when you do martial arts, it's funny because a lot of people want to become a black belt, want to go martial art. So they go and sign up at some martial arts studio and they see some guy doing these crazy kicks and all that. And like, man, I want to kick like that guy. He's fast and he gets high. He does that. And then they strap on a white belt and they get on into the mat and then they try to do something like that. And their body doesn't do that. But you know what I mean? It doesn't do it. But you know what? If you go to a martial arts studio, they do the same thing over and over and over and over. And then guess what? When they come back to following, guess what? They do the same thing over and over and over. And that happens in martial arts. It happens in, sports. Okay. It's going back to the basics so that you can drill that muscle skill. You know what I mean? The muscle memory. And so consistency is everything, just so you all know, right? Yeah. And so, people just don't want to do things consistently, though. That's the problem, you
It's
know?
boring, huh? It's boring, John, right?
Yeah. But so here's the thing, like, you know, I tell people success doesn't come from what you do occasionally, but what you do consistently. You know, and so right now it's January, everybody's at the gym, everybody's signed up for a membership, they're going to lose weight, they're going to get fit, and guess what? They're already kind of burning out, and you can't find parking at a gym. But give it about another week, guess what, Jose? The parking lots will be open again, because you know what?
No
Because
consistency.
that's right, it's not consistent. They went
No
to
see.
the gym for 1 month, and they're like, oh, this is it, I'm good. Are you kidding? I mean, you know, I don't know of anybody who became a professional bodybuilder in 30 days. You know, I never
Right.
heard anybody who became a great basketball player or a pianist or a violinist in 30 days. So why would you do something for 30 days and then stop? You know, so you got to stay consistent with it. Finally, the letter T is to be tenacious, right? I mean, just your tenacity has everything to do with the outcome of your business. Does that make sense, right? And then here's the thing: it's how you program yourself. You know, the other day I had a friend named Chris Widener, and he and I were talking. And the question that we were talking, the thing we were talking about, and then he came on my show and he was talking about, you know, something that was really interesting is we all know people can make money. I mean, we've seen it, right? We've seen people make money during great times. We've seen people make money during some tough times, like the 08, 9, and 10 recession, during COVID, 2021, 22, right? So we know people can make money. In fact, we've seen people make money under President Biden, right? Under President Trump, under Clinton, under Reagan, under Ford, under, you know, Obama, under every single president, somebody made money. Okay.
Yeah.
So we know people can make money. The question is, do you believe that you can make money? Okay.
Yeah.
Do you? And so the question you should ask yourself is, what is your identity? Okay. What is what we call your internal thermostat? You know what I mean? Like, so for instance, like my room right here where I'm at right now is set at what? 70 degrees. That's the thermostat, right? And it says auto, you know, 70 degrees. And so that's my thermostat. That's what I'm comfortable with. Does that make sense? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So guess what? If you want to get me uncomfortable, okay, you're going to have to crank up that thermostat to 76 degrees. Okay. Because at 76 degrees, it gets hot in this room. I start sweating. Does that make sense? I start perspiring and I don't function very well in the heat. Okay. And so all of a sudden, guess what? Now that you've changed my thermostat, I'm going to do something about it. That makes sense? Like I'm going to go and drink cold water. I'm going to go outside. I'm going to turn on a fan. Or guess what? I'm going to go over to the thermostat and I'm going to change the thermostat from 76 down to what? 70. And I'm going to turn on the cool. Does that make sense? On the other hand, if we're up in Toronto, Canada, or Calgary, and it's snowing outside and it's 20, 30 degrees below zero, then guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to turn on the air to bring the temperature back up to 70 because that's my comfort zone. Mm-hmm. But you know what? If you went over to my thermostat and changed it from 70 to even 71, guess what happens? The machine, the air conditioning unit goes on. Does that make sense? Because it's getting too hot in here. Okay. So the question I ask people is, what is your internal thermostat set for when it comes to money? So for instance, if I said to somebody, how much money do you want to make a year? And the guy goes, man, I want to make a lot. I'm like, great. What's a lot? He goes, 100 grand. See, his thermostat is set to $100,000. Do you see what's going on there? And it's set there. But you know what happens to that guy? He goes and wins the lotto. And he wins, you know, millions of dollars. You ever heard these lotto winners going broke after a year or two or three?
Oh, yeah. And sports, athletes, everyone.
Why? Because their thermostat was set to 100,000, so they go back down to what? $100,000. Okay.
Makes
Sometimes
sense.
people will say, you know, they look at their identity, and I hear this very frequently from women who say, that guy, my old boyfriend, he cheated on me. And I'll say, oh, okay. And I said, what, and you're still with him? And I said, well, I'm going to leave him. I'm going to leave him. I'm like, okay, great. Leave him. Okay. Or let's say the guy beat her, right? Hit her, smacked her around. And I said, what are you doing with a guy like that? And he says, I'm going to leave him. Great. So they leave. And then guess what? When I talk to them like 30 days later, guess what they do? They go back to that same guy, right? The one that cheated on them, hit them, smacked them around, verbally abused them. It's because their internal thermostat is set here. So this is why it's so important that we change our identity, okay, quickly. And the way we change that identity is to change the way we think. Does that make sense, right? Because
go ahead.
Okay.
What I wanted to say, John, that's amazing everything you're saying. How do we notice that our thermostat is set to something? Like, how do people realize that? Because I think that same person, for example, that you just gave the example about the girl that's always coming back to the cheating guy and the beat her up and stuff like that. This person, they probably don't even recognize this. So how can people recognize that parameter they're set at the thermostat?
So you have to change your environment. Does that make sense, right? So I actually had somebody who used to work for me, okay? And this person came and worked for me and basically said, I never knew that a family like yours actually existed. Does that make sense, right? I never knew that a husband and wife, because they were in our home all the time, they're around our family all the time. And the person who worked for me said, I never knew that a husband and wife could be, the way you guys treat each other. And then all of a sudden it shifted this person's paradigm because they saw this, they were experiencing this the whole time. And then all of a sudden went over here and saw something different. And then when they saw something different, they're like, wow, that really exists. Does that make sense? And then saw it, experienced it, witnessed it, and said, I want that. Does that make sense, right? So, before I ever started making money, I used to fly on my planes, not my planes, fly on a commercial plane like Southwest or whatever. And I would get into a plane like American Airlines, and they would always make you walk through the first class and business class section. Yeah. And I was always look at these people, like I kind of look at them like, wow, is that what these people look like to sit in these chairs, And I would walk through there, and I would end up going to the back of the airplane, and I would sit in coach, right? And that's and even though I walked through it, I saw it briefly, and I went to the back of the airplane, and I sat in the back of the airplane. A lot of times, my seats were like right next to the toilet, the bathroom of the airplanes, you know what I mean? Like people were always going in and out or whatever, or it was someone that was sitting next to me that always wanted to fight me for my armrest, And in fact, I even had one passenger one time said, he goes, hey buddy, he goes, it looks like we had a 4-hour flight. So do you want to put your arms in the front or you want to put your arms in the back? Right? Does that make sense? Right? And I was like, wow, like why can't I have it on the side? And so eventually I finally made enough money to just go, I want to know what it feels like to sit up in the front, like business and first class. And guess what? I went and bought a business class ticket and a first class ticket. And can I tell you, Jose, because I've now changed my thermostat, I don't know if I could ever go and sit in coach anymore.
Right. Definitely.
Does that make sense? Right. We live in a house here now in Calabasas, and this house is, I don't know, probably 12,000 square feet right now. Well, when Arlene and I first got married, we used to tell ourselves, man, we're going to buy a big house. Does that make sense, right? This will be our mansion. This will be our dream home. And we finally moved up from like 1,200 to, square feet up to like 5,000 square feet. We thought 5,000 was like, oh my God, look, we're living the life. This is amazing, right? And then we decided to buy a bigger house. And we finally bought, this house. And this house is, like I said, almost 12,000 square feet. And we love it. Okay. Now, living in this, now that this is my new environment, I cannot imagine myself living in anything smaller than 12,000 square feet.
Right.
Because I changed my thermostat. And you got to change that environment. And the way you do that is to change the way you think.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because all of a sudden, once you change the way you think, and that's why I said you got to dream big, right? Because your thoughts and what you think about all the time is going to influence the way you feel.
Definitely.
And then how you feel will influence the way you act. And then how you act will determine your results. Mm-hmm. And your results are all predicated on your what? Your thoughts and what you're thinking about every day. Mm-hmm. And this is why I tell people, man, don't watch the news. Don't listen to negative people, all those toxic naysayers, right? You need to seal your mind, right? And guard it like a fortress around your mind from all that negative stuff.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm with you. It's funny. The other day, John, I called this friend, and it's his birthday. And if not, I wouldn't even talk to them, And as soon as I start talking to them, and I pass the phone to my mom, like happy birthday and stuff, and then he starts saying things like, "Oh, Jose's doing so good. Who could have ever imagined that?" Things like that. So negative shit. And I'm like, wow, just how quick a person that is negative just has the need to just do something, like say something that is negative, And after that, my mom was like, why are they always like so negative? It's crazy, but that affects you in a little, like if you're strong mentally, you're not going to get that affected. But if you're surrounded by that, even if you're mentally strong, it's still going to affect you somehow. Right.
Yeah. Hey,
John,
Jose, what's interesting is that there's there's bees. Does that make sense? There's bees and then there's flies. Okay. Bees don't waste their time explaining to flies that honey is better than shit.
Right. I love that. Yeah.
Am I right? Okay. Yeah. And so listen, if you're the bee and you're sitting there trying to, you're milking all this honey, but guess what? If your friends are sitting there focusing on the shit, let them focus on the shit. They're a bunch of flies. You choose to decide to be a bee or you can be a fly.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. John, if like what is one thing that you can tell the audience that in business, right, that you screw up for maybe years and you never even knew it was a limiting belief, right? What we're talking about. You never knew that was affecting you. And as soon as you change it, boom, like your business blew up, everything improved, and all the things that you were thinking that they were so difficult, they were just like this, they just disappeared. What was one thing, if you could say one thing, what would that be? What would that thing be?
Micromanagement. Stop micromanaging. Okay? Like, I mean, nobody wants a boss, right? Mm-hmm. Hovering over them every day. Have you done this? Have you done that? Have you done this? Have you done that? Nobody wants that. Does that make sense? Yeah. And look, if I have to micromanage somebody on my team or my staff, then they shouldn't be working for me. Mm. Does that make sense? I hired that person to come on my staff. Does that make sense? And I was like the everything guy. I was doing the payroll. Are you with me on that? I was doing the hours. And I even like looked at the hours, like what time did they come in? I even got like a timestamp and had people, you came in at 9:20 and you're supposed to be here at 9. And then you left at 4:00 and you're supposed to be here till 6. And you know what I mean? I was that micromanager guy. Does that make sense? Right? Yeah. And then I would sit there and tell my accountants or whoever, my bookkeeper and everybody, my salespeople, and I was micromanaging everything. And you know what? Because of that, we were growing, but not growing at the level that we wanted to grow.
Mm.
So when I started to realize that I needed to stop that micromanagement and learn how to get the right people in the right seats, delegate to them, share with these people, what is my goal? Remember GPS, what are my goals? And then because I'm bringing you in, I want you to tell me what is the plan.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense, right? So look, I don't know anything about, I don't know all the technical stuffs about websites. Does that make sense, right? But you do. So guess what? I'm going to say, Jose, I need a website that looks beautiful, stunning, eye-capturing, easy on my eyes, big letters so people don't have to squint and look at all the little fine print, all that. But what I want to do is in the next 12 months, I need 500,000 people to come and visit my website.
Right.
That's my goal.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you are going to help me plan that.
Yeah.
And if you say, nope, I can't do it, then I don't need to hire you.
Right.
Does that make sense, right? I hire somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I hired you, because I told you what my goals were. I hired you to put the plan together, and now we're in execution mode, and we put it into our schedule, and we're off to the races.
Yeah. So John and I were doing 7 websites for him and all his, well, not all of his companies. That would be crazy, but we're doing 7 different websites for foundations, charities, some of his companies, his own, Arlene's website, and all these things. But I was just gonna say say something about what you're talking about, John, and is that I think people they really believe, John, that they are good at everything. They truly believe it somehow, and they think that people cannot do a better job than they do. But they are small business owners and they're doing everything, and they need to wake up to the reality that they're actually just screwing everything up. And they don't see it that way. They think, because they're so addicted to the control of being everywhere, that they don't even realize that they're doing a shitty job everywhere. It's just it's so shitty that it's at the same level. So it's like you just think it's good because everything is at the same level, which is shitty. It's not as exceptional. So I've hired people, for example, in Silver Enterprises, and everyone just has improved. I taught them everything I knew, but they've improved. They've leveled up what I taught them, because they have more time than I do, because I'm doing all this crazy stuff all the time. So I can't do everything perfect. What would you say about that?
Well, I mean, that's exactly it. It's getting the right people to do the right things. You know what I mean? I mean, you don't see Bill Gates, doing sales. Are you with me on that?
Right.
You don't see Bill Gates hiring people, right? Or Steve Jobs or Jeff Zuckerberg or all these people when they're all in their peak. They're not doing that. They hired the people to do all those different things, right? And then you got to delegate, and you know what you're good at, and then you let everybody else do the rest of the stuff, right?
Definitely. John, what are 3 books? Of course, let's not include this book, which is John's book, okay? And we'll tell you where to find it and buy it, or this book, because everyone knows these 2, and they're here, okay, guys? And you guys, if you haven't read these 2 books, you have to get them, okay? They're amazing. And what 3 books would you recommend to a brand new entrepreneur, John?
Well, so one of the first books I would read, when you look at this country and who are some of the wealthiest people that ever lived in America, and basically built an empire, 2 families that come to mind. One was the Rockefellers and the other one was the Vanderbilts. So you got these 2 super uber wealthy people. And if you ever look at the Vanderbilt families, they actually built in Newport these massive mansions. Okay, not Newport, California, Newport in the East Coast, right? These massive mansions, and then eventually lost all of it, okay, to a point where they all went bankrupt. Okay, and all these properties that they own, the mansions that they have, are now owned by the state, right, government, and it's basically a tourist attraction now, and people go there. And we actually went there a year and a half ago, to look at these properties and see, how did the Vanderbilt families live?
Mm-hmm.
And they lost it all. What's interesting is that the Rockefellers actually grew. They continue to grow. So what mistakes did the the Vanderbilts do? And what did the Rockefellers do to still be one of the wealthiest families out there still today?
Mm-hmm.
And so I always ask myself, what would the Rockefellers do? Does that make sense? And guess what? There's actually a book right
Okay.
here that I'm reading, and it's called "What Would the
Move it.
Rockefellers?"
Move it this way. There you go.
You see
What
that?
would the Rockefellers do?
Yeah, isn't that crazy? And so
Yeah.
they came out with a book, and it's called "What Would the Rockefeller?" It's a short read. It's pretty thin. You can see this, and
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Another book that's sitting here on my desk that I would always tell people to read is a book written by a guy that some of you may have heard of, and his name is Tony Robbins. And so Tony Robbins wrote a book called Money.
Mm-hmm.
And so I tell everybody, go get this book and start reading all the things, because here's a guy, Tony Robbins, who's probably one of the most influential guys out there, who's helped so many people reach peak performance. And I'm sure he meets a lot of smart people. So what was it? Okay. What was it that some of these wealthy, smart people said to him to put in this book called Money? And then I went in there and started reading these principles, and I'm like, oh my God, that's exactly what I do. Does that make sense? And now I was going to write about it in a book, and it turns out that Tony Robbins already did it. So
He did
hey,
it.
I don't have to write the book. I just tell everybody to go buy Tony's book, right? So
That's so cool, man. No, I remember.
yeah, that's
What
the
was-
second. The third book I tell everyone to read is written actually by a guy named Robert Kiyosaki and Sharon Lecter, and it's not just Rich Dad Poor Dad. There's a specific one, and it's actually called Cash Flow Quadrant.
Mhm.
Cash Flow Quadrant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it teaches you to how to shift the way your mindset is from an employee to an entrepreneur. Does that make sense? Not self-employed, not becoming a real estate agent. A real estate agent is not a business. Okay. A real estate agent is self-employed, because if they stop selling and listing properties and going out there and finding clients, okay, they're not making any money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's self-employed. That's different than a business. A
Yeah.
business is you don't have to be there because you got systems running it. Okay. And then you got people there also running it. Now that's a business. Okay. So
Yeah.
I've had people say to me, John, when you say mindset, what does that mean? To me, your mindset are your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
It's your beliefs. Okay. That is your mindset. Okay. And so your thoughts and your beliefs will determine how you, number one, make sense of yourself, right? Number two, it also helps you with the way you see the world. It also helps you with your immediate environment. Okay. So your mindset is everything.
Everything. Yeah. And we've spoken about that book here, John. I've recommended it many times in the show.
Yeah.
And I hope people are listening and they're getting the book, because it's crazy. That book changed my perspective about business. I wish, like I had just continued reading all Robert Kiyosaki's books and just read more than what I've done so far. It's just like, there's excuses, right? That we just put in place. But if the reality is that if we just read more, did more courses and things like that, we would just be making way more money, versus like, oh yeah, I gotta concentrate in all these other things that they're just transactional, right? They're not gonna transform your company, your business, get it to the next level. John, 2 more questions. Thank you so much, dude. You're the best. What are John Shin's next goals? What is in John Shin's head that he's like, this is the next thing I'm doing, and I'm very excited about it? What is it?
Well, so one of the main things I want to do right now is I want to teach people about financial literacy.
Okay.
That is my main goal, because Unfortunately, and I say this respectfully to all the teachers that are out there, because I know they're working hard with the resources that they have, but I think that our school academics needs some change. We need to teach our children about entrepreneurship. I mean, we teach them everything else. We teach them biology. We teach them math. We teach them history. We teach them, economics, and we teach them all this stuff. But what about business and entrepreneurship? I took a class, Jose, and it was on sewing. You know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and am I in that business? No, but I got exposed to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I had no desire to become a doctor, but I was exposed to biology and physiology and
Right.
chemistry. Okay. I have zero desire to become a historian or a history teacher, but I was exposed to history. Okay. So why can't we expose our kids to financial literacy and teach them the basics of money and investments and passive income? And if
Mm-hmm.
somebody wants to start a business, where can they get money?
Yeah.
Right. And so I want to teach people about financial literacy 101. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my number one thing. And then number two is I want to help people change the way they think.
Mm.
I want, I think right now our world that we live in, too many people, and it's not just the younger generation, it's every generation.
Mm-hmm.
We have too many casual people. Everything is just casual, just whatever. We'll just wing it, just so casual. You know what I tell casual people? Casual people become casualties.
I like that. Yeah.
Okay. And so you got to stop being casual. Like when I'm driving in my car, I see people just driving casually. You know what I mean? One arm like this and just chilling with their seat, laying back in the back seat, and they're casual. Well, guess what? If you're laying down in your car, are you with me on that? And you got one hand or one finger on your steering wheel, and somebody came into your lane, you will not be able to move
React.
as quickly and react as quickly as you would like, okay? Because you're just too casual, and now you become a casualty.
Mm-hmm.
Man, when I'm driving in my car, I am full alert. I'm looking in my rear view mirror. I'm looking at my side view mirror. I'm looking at every single lane. I am on full alert when I'm driving my car, okay? Laser focused,
Precision. Yeah, definitely.
okay? So that's why I tell people, stop being so damn casual with your life. One of the greatest quotes I tell people from a friend of mine named Dr. Dennis Kimbrough. You know what he said to me? He said, John, time is not running out, but your life is. So right now, guess what I have? I have a sense of urgency, Jose.
Mm-hmm.
A massive what? Sense of urgency. Like, man, I got to get things done now.
Mm-hmm.
Too much to do. So I
Yeah.
tell people, man, what are you thinking about? Let's go. You need to make a decision. You know the word decide? The word decide, you know where it comes from?
Where?
Or decision, to make a decision. The word decision comes from the word decide. The word de, comes from the Latin root word do, to do. And then the word side, CIDE, means to kill or to die. That's why
Mm.
we have pesticide, homicide, suicide, right? So
Okay.
when you look at the word decide, it says do or die. It means do or kill all your excuses,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because right now, Jose, we have too many people living their life, and they all suffer a disease called excusitis.
They do, definitely.
Right? They have all the excuses of why they don't want to do. One of the biggest excuses I hear people say, and by the way, when you read Think and Grow Rich, in the back of the book, there's a chapter in there where he talks about Napoleon Hill says that there are 57 airtight alibis, okay, of why people are not rich in life. And we've all heard it. If I wasn't married, if I didn't have any kids, if I wasn't sick, if I wasn't fat, if I wasn't ugly, if I was born on the right side of the track, born in the right family, all these things. So I tell people, stop making excuses. Look, if you're going to quit, which a lot of people are who start businesses, okay, they're going to quit. Well, then the first thing I tell people is quit making excuses. Okay?
Quit that first, at least.
Quit blaming everyone else. Quit being lazy. Quit waiting for the right time. Quit going on vacations you can't afford. Quit buying crap you don't need. And more importantly, how about quit quitting?
Yeah.
Are you with me on that? Like, I mean, if I go look at somebody's life and I see their pattern, it's like they always started, which is what a lot of people do, but they never finish because they quit.
Mhm.
You know, I how many times, like my wife and I, we love playing piano. When people come to our house and they see our big, grand piano, and they go, "Who plays?" Arlene and I. Oh, that's great. How about you? Do you play? They go, "Well, I took lessons." I'm like, "Oh, so you must be fabulous." And then they'll say, "Well, but I quit." Are you with me on that? You know how many people start at white belt and never get to black belt? They go, "Oh, I did karate. I did kung fu. I did taekwondo. I did hapkido. I did judo." "Oh, did you get the black belt?" "No, I quit when I was a blue belt. I quit when I was a green belt." You see how people quit everything, man? Once you start this business, there's no turning back.
Yeah.
You burn your bridge. There's no way to go back. You only got one way to go now.
I think, John, then the first hardest thing is starting something, right? But then the second hardest thing, which is harder than starting something, is keeping up with it, like for a long time, and achieving real success and skill, because I mean, you've been selling financial services for 25 years, right, John? Or longer?
28 years, man. 28
28
years.
years. 28 years. I've been doing websites for 9 years, and I still learn stuff. It's crazy. And you still probably learn new tricks to close deals and stuff like that. It just keeps happening, right? Because you stay consistent with it, and then you just keep learning more and more and more and more and more. But you gotta be coachable too. You gotta be open-minded and all these things. John, the last question, dude, is what are only three things that you would the best three tips that you would give to a new entrepreneur?
Okay, tip number one is this. I'll tell you a story. So when you go to Africa, okay, there are these hunters or poachers, okay? And what they do is go and get these little mini monkeys, okay? And they set up traps. Now to set up the trap, what they do is they get a coconut, and they drill a little hole in it, and then inside the coconut, and they get a long one. Does that make sense, right? And they fill it up with peanuts, okay? So now what they do is they take the coconut and then they tie it down to a branch, and then here comes the little monkey. The little monkey comes along, puts the finger or the hands inside this little hole, puts it in there, and then grabs all the peanuts, makes a fist and tries to pull it up. And now guess what? With the hole like this and the big old fist, it can't come out of the hole. And then guess what? The hunters come, the poachers come, and they kill these little monkeys. Okay? And so many of these monkeys are now, at the point of extinction. Okay? Just like rhinos. So if the monkey had just let go of the peanuts, it would have survived. So one of the things I tell people to do, one of my tips is let go of the peanuts.
I love that.
Does that make sense?
So how do the peanuts present in the day-to-day life of a new entrepreneur, John? What would be the peanuts, for example?
The peanuts are everything we just talked about. It's a metaphor. The peanut represents everything from the little money that you're making, the job that you're holding on to,
Yeah.
Because, because the monkey had this food, it's like, oh, I'm going to live on this food. You're holding on to that job. That's your peanut. If you would let go of your job, then you can actually go out there and realize that there's so much more freedom out there. Every time I coach people, they turn around, I go, they make $100,000. And you know what they say? They go, why didn't I do this 30 years ago? I don't know, because you were holding on to your damn peanuts.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? If you've got that loser boyfriend, right? Or that loser, girlfriend, get rid of them. That's another peanut. Are you with me? You have a friend and like, well, this is my friend. I've known him for 25 years, but how has that friendship served you? Is it just someone that is like a convenient thing where you got somebody to go and have a lunch with or breakfast or dinner, someone to go see a movie? Great. Go clubbing? Great. Has that person helped you in any way?
What's the value of the friendship, huh?
Yeah, what's the value? Is that, let me ask you, I think it's Ariana Grande. I forget who it was. But she actually had a disease. Does that make sense? And her disease was it was like an autoimmune deficiency. Does that make sense? And so basically, she needed a kidney transplant.
I think that was Selena Gomez, dude.
Yeah, Selena Gomez. That's who it was. Sorry, my bad. Not Ariana. Not jinxing her.
No, don't worry. No judgment here.
Yeah, so Selena Gomez, and she needed a kidney. Well, who gave her a kidney? Her friend. Does that make sense? I mean, that's a friend.
Yeah.
My question is, would my friends really give me one of their kidneys if I needed it?
Probably not, huh? I mean, if you don't have friends, it would.
I mean, I don't. What do you define that person as? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I mean, the sacrifices that a friend makes for another friend, you call that a friend? I mean, your own family members don't do things like that for you.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Okay. So number one is let go of the peanuts. Lesson number two, remember this. Tough times never last. But tough people do.
Wow. That's the first time I hear that one.
Okay. And lesson number three is to know, okay, that you are a masterpiece because you're a piece of the master. The scriptures say that you were created in his image. Which means, guess what? You're a piece of the master. You're a masterpiece. Why would you let anybody else tell you otherwise? Mic drop. Boom.
That's what actually just happened.
Yes.
It's so big that you're like going through it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you, by the way, just that last one, how do you come up with that one? You just one day you're like, and you got it in your head?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I guess, you just, I just like, I don't watch a whole lot of TV also, you know what I mean, Jose, because I got no time. But I do like reading stories on books that have inspirational stories. Does that make sense, right? I also like watching inspirational movies. I like watching inspirational, that's why I like a TV show called America's Got Talent. Okay. In the days when I was growing up, there was a TV show called Star Search. Okay. I love these things. And the reason why I like them is because I think too many of us don't even realize how talented we are. And in your whole life, you go through your whole life realizing that you've got these God-given talents and you don't even think you have not put much value to your own gifts and talents. Does that make sense? And because of that, you never do anything with it. And then all of a sudden it takes a show like America's Got Talent You go out there, you finally muster up some courage to get out on that stage and you do your thing. And now the world watches you. They love you. You go on. And then next thing you know, you win.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So here's what I tell people. Ready, Jose? I'll give you
Ready.
I'll give you lesson
Okay,
number
4.
4.
Oh my
Lesson
God.
number 4. You only asked for 3. I'm going to give you a bonus. Lesson number 4 is this. We're all wired for success, but programmed to fail.
Because of our family, education system, everything else.
Yeah, it's everything we've everything that's been programmed into your head. The programming that's been put into your head was programmed by your parents. Now, again, I don't mean to like put your parents down or your grandparents or your people who ever raised you. That again, because they love you, okay, they do. But again, doesn't mean they're giving you the best advice.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is why I say we need to change the way you think. And so guess what? Sometimes I have this thing right here called the cell phone, and sometimes this doesn't work right. I try to scroll, it doesn't do whatever, you know what I mean? So then I'll call Apple support and I said, what do I got to do? You know what they tell me to do? You need to do a hard reset. And guess what America needs to do right now? We need to do a hard reset. You're going to have a different outcome this year because obviously whatever you may have done last year didn't serve you very well. So time to hit a hard reset this year.
Definitely. And well, guys, I'll tell you like where you can find this book. This is John's book. Okay. You can go to his website. You can also find it on Amazon. And if you go and chat with John, you can chat with him on Instagram. You can tell him, John, please, if you send me the book, sign it because I watch Jose's show. Okay. And he'll know that you're paying attention. But he might just do a trick question. What were the 3 things that I had? The 3 tips, right? The 4 tips.
There you go. That's right.
Right. And but this is an excellent book. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it on his website, which is John C. Okay, as a Carlos, but he's not Carlos, right? Right, John? You're not Carlos, right?
Nope. Chris.
John Cress Shin. So it's johncShin.com. Okay, and you can also book him for any events that that are like. You need a motivational speaker, business coach, speaker, all those things. He can be at your event. Okay. This guy has been with over 30,000 people on a stage. Okay. I've spoken in his mansion and it's great. And what you got here for an hour and 17 minutes is just like 1% of what John Shin knows. And the things that he says are incredible. And I've learned so much from him. He's a mentor to me as well. And you can also, of course, get this book, which if you haven't read it, it's critical that you do. If you want to be called a real entrepreneur, you got to read this book, right, John? And then, so definitely, if you also want a business coach that has done it, okay, that's done real things, because there's a lot of business gurus, blah, blah, blah. They say things, but there's no proof, either monetarily or their life doesn't show really the values they claim to have and be, etc. You can also get John as a coach. There's an event that I'll be into in February 8th and 9th. You can be part of. So just go to John Shin's website and go there and chat with them and stuff, and you can get a ticket for the event. Okay, it's a very nice and private mastermind. So if you're very serious about doing business, you got to go to that one. There's going to be one in March. I think it's the 23rd and 4th, right, John? Something like that. Yeah. So it's amazing. What else can we do with you, John? That for these people.
I mean, hey, we're here to help everyone grow. Okay. We hope you have a wonderful year in 2023, and it's not too late. If you don't have a plan, now's the time to have a plan. If you don't have any goals, now's the time to start setting some goals. And if you don't have any goals yet, then it's now the time for you to start thinking and dreaming bigger than you have over the past years. Okay? God bless everybody.
God bless.
Take care.
Thank you so much, John. God bless you, man. Thank you for being
Thanks,
here.
Jose.
Let's go.